And hello, everyone. I'm Keith Williams. Welcome to the Author Showcase, where we do just that. We showcase authors, those who has written a book, and it does not have to be a book in print. It can be digital. We also showcase those who have created blogs, whether it's ones you can read or the ones that you can see. And from time to time, we have publishers that come on the show as well. And so that's who we showcase. Anything that may present someone to read, to engage, to be influenced. That's what we do here on the Author Showcase. And so today, this is actually our first recorded broadcast of the year 2023. So as you know, the Australian broadcast section has been growing in popularity. And of course, myself as host had to go out of town on a few things and was not able to do any recorded podcasts. And so we did some archive footage for January for some of our podcasts, but this is the actual first recorded podcast of 2023. And so today we have Freddie Stover here with us, and a pleasant good evening to you.
Thank you for having me, and same to you. I'm glad to be here with you.
So, first of all, please tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Well, um, I'm pretty much known as Miss Freddie, and I'm a nurse, and I'm also a singer. And from time to time, I'm getting back into writing poetry. I'm starting that up again after being away from writing poetry, no, for many years. So I'm hoping to start that back up. And that's me pretty much in a nutshell, the short version of me, if you will. So I lead a busy life, uh, mom of an individual on the autism spectrum. I'm always learning about that every day, and he's a joy to, I can learn from. And a lot of my poetry that I've been writing, trying to write lately centers around, what I see, what I hear um, from him and from others who engage with him.
So this is the first for the author showcase where we actually have a musician on here. And we know that music is also a published item as well, and it's considered to be art. And so this is a first for the author showcase to have someone who is indulged in music. So according to her background, Miss Freddie, as she likes to be called, has been singing since 1996. Started out with she had a professional band called BMW. Now has two bands on her own, Miss Freddie's Blues Band and Miss Freddie's Homecoming Band. She sings a variety of blues, classical, rock, and gospel. She performs in pretty much in states like Pennsylvania, Ohio, and West Virginia. She is a 2018 Blues Foundation Blues and Music Award nominee, and she has multiple awards locally and internationally to her claim. And she also performs music for annual charity events. Tell us a little bit about your musical career, other than what was given.
Um, in the beginning, it was a challenge because I have stage fright. It's not as bad as it was starting out. And 96, I joined Big Al's band. That was my mentor. And it was blues music work, BMW. And he did blues. The band, strictly blues. That's what his love. And, from that, he taught me a lot. And he had always encouraged me to venture out on my own someday because he, you know, heard something in my voice, I want to say, that he knew it would take me beyond what he could offer. And one thing he did stress was to start listening to other blues musicians in the world. And the first one, I already knew about Etta James and Big Mama Thornton growing up listening, my mom listening to blues. But what really struck me was Coco Taylor. And I started listening to a lot of her stuff. I loved her stage presence. I loved the music she sang. She just had this power behind her. And that's somebody that I wanted to be like. And so after a while, 2002, 2003, I started my own band, Blue Phase, Faze. And from that, moving forward, I formed not only the blues band, Miss Freddie's Blues Band, in 2009, but probably about a few years after that, Miss Freddie's Home Cooking Band came into play. And it's local musicians who love blues. The blues band, we do blues, a little bit of R&B and soul. And the home cooking band, we do a variety of gospel, blues, classic rock. And the home cooking band subs into, if we're commissioned to do gospel music, we're called Glory Be, and that's an original. And that's going to be the name of my gospel album. And so I go out and do that. And with that, I've just been busy. I do my own bookings. I don't write, I have written a couple songs, but I have some people who write songs for me. They're very talented. I respect their talent. Always mention, who the author is of the song that was written for me. And I try to share my music. The reason why I do the music is I feel this world needs something, to calm down, relax, have something to go to. So that's why I sing, because I know music makes me feel good no matter what I listening to. So I listen to all styles of music. People think I'm just into blues and gospel. And I said, no. I said, I love classical piano. I listen to hip hop. I listen to rap. I listen to pop. I listen to some country. I said, I'm all around. It depends upon my mood. So, and moving forward, I'm trying to bring out another single of an original song written by a friend of mine who passed away a couple years back, and still working on a blues roots album at this point. And I do my own bookings, so it just makes it very easy to, do what I have to do and bring in what I have to bring in to get things done. And I still work full time as a nurse. I work in the outpatient setting, work with a surgeon, and we deal with pancreatic, colon, and rectal cancers. And being a cancer survivor twice myself, um, maybe not those kind of cancers, but just getting the big C word, and I know how that is. So I'm always trying to keep up on the latest trend, or especially support groups, so that I could share that information with our patients. So that's pretty much. And I use my music to um, to sing for patients because a few of our patients have heard me. And once they have met me and they realize they put two and two together, it's like, oh my God, you're Miss Freddie. And I just kind of laugh and I said, yeah, that's me. I'm incognito today. I'm the nurse. So, and I noticed they feel much better because they've heard me perform and now they see that I get to take care of them, in the same breath. So,
Well, they say that music is good for the soul, right?
amen to that.
Well,
Yes,
I have to
indeed.
ask, has blues music changed over the years?
I think it has.
Because
And
I
if
remember,
people,
'cause, and it still may be, in some cases today that when I, hear blues music, I'm always hearing about somebody cheating on somebody, or I got
yeah,
a side person, with
hmm
me, or you got someone confronting, someone, or they're in a love triangle or something like that.
hmm
So
right.
that's still going on today as it was, in the past. But in the past, well, also like in the 70s, you got there from the 70s too, but also in the 70s, there was like a disco spin to some of the
hmm
songs, as well. And you often hear it on popular music shows like Soul Train or American Dancing or something like that. You'll hear that, on there. Are there any like different topics besides those I just mentioned, that are sung in the blues genre of music?
Um, yeah. And I even do, I do some of what you have spoken about, but there's also the party side, the good time side, talking about the juke joints or the party down the street. There's that good
Yep.
time party
That's
music.
that's very popular. I heard a lot of songs pertaining to that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, there are songs about rekindling a love, after all you've been through, rekindling that love, or, we all have issues in life, so you can't let anything drag your spirit down. So, let's just keep this going, stay uplifted. There are songs like that. And there are songs that, especially that I do, that it involves the audience. We're gonna take care of you. We're gonna fix you up. One of my songs I sing is called "Fix You Up Fine," and it's still very popular after all these years. And it's about taking care of that person. You work all day. You're tired. You come home. You just feel beaten down and worn out, but you got this nurse right here who's gonna take care of you, and you're going to feel so wonderful. You feel brand new. You're going to feel wonderful. So yeah, there
Oh,
there are
wow.
songs that do.
I would love to hear that song, right. I would love to hear that song right there. Mm.
You missed it last night. I sang it with my home cooking band. We did a blues dance in downtown Pittsburgh at a dance studio, and I like to. What I just don't get up and sing the song, and I try not to talk too much, because you kind of lose, just lose that power. But certain songs I will put a lot of emphasis on. It's like, all right, who all needs to be taken care of? How many of you got issues? Did you work all day? Were you in school? Was somebody just getting on your nerves? You couldn't stand it? You just wanted to walk down the street and never come back? And the crowd just went wild when I said, "Oh yeah, I got them now." And so I did that song. It's a song written by a friend of mine out of here in Pittsburgh. He's written a lot of songs for me, and people like that. And it's a dance song, and it's uplifting. So that's what I do. Or, if we're going to take a train ride, come on, let's hop on the train. We're going to party. We have a good time. So, yeah, there are a lot of blues songs out there today that present the opposite of what we're used to hearing.
So have you heard of a song called Ain't No Love in the Heart of the City?
Yes, yes, I have. Ain't no love in the heart of the city. Yes, I have.
That
Yeah.
is that is like one of my favorite that is one of my favorite blues songs right there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I
Yeah.
have it on my playlist
Okay.
of songs. Because it's some say that it's not your traditional blues song that talks
Right.
about social issues. You rarely hear anything about that. S
Mm-hmm.
why that song, resonates with
Mm-hmm.
me as an activist and community organizer. That song kinda, resonates with me because of some things that are going on in my locality that this song kinda hits on, and Imma leave it at that. I don't like giving out names.
Right. Nope, I understand that. And speaking of songs like that, there's a song that I do with my home cooking band, Inner City Blues. I tell people if you listen to that song, it talks about the issues and what's going on, but and it's keeping it real. It's not about Marvin Gaye. It's not about it's just, the money, what's going on, what it does to you, talks about inflation. I'm like, this is a good song. And that's the kind of song that I love doing because it makes people sit and think. Now, they'll dance to it, but people really sit and think
See that
about,
listen to the lyrics.
it takes them heart to heart. It gives them something. It's like, oh, I remember that song. And I hear a lot of people, yeah, I remember the days we used to protest. I'm like, they're still protesting. It's just a different generation.
Mhm. Now let's go to the, classical rock genre. What is when I think of classic rock, I think of songs back in the '70s. You got bands like, you got Kiss, you got AC/DC, you got Steely Dan.
Hmm.
That's what I'm thinking.
Hmm. Well, and people laugh at me because they just can't see that. But I told them, I said, I was a huge Kiss fan. And people look at me like, really? I said, well, yeah, remember, I was a teenager back then. So,
Right, but
I, I,
did you know that, did you know that you had African Americans that sing country?
yes, I knew that. Yes, I knew that. Oh, what's his name? Oh my gosh, I think he just passed away like last year. Country, African American male.
Was he, like, popular in the '70s?
Uh, I want to say, I think he was. I really think he was. Oh
Are
my
you talking
gosh.
about Charlie Pride?
Yes, Charlie Pride. Thank you. My gosh. Charlie Pride. There was Ray Charles sang a little bit of country too. A lot of people didn't know that.
Right. So when we talk about classical rock, what is that?
To me, I think classical rock is the rock that was back in the 60s, 70s, and the 80s. Mostly for the 60s and 70s for me. We're talking Elvis, Bob Dylan, Simon and Garfunkel. We're talking Lou Rawls, even though I would put him in like a blues category. We're talking Ray Charles. He did some rock stuff.
I
So that's what
Art
classical rock
Funkel was
is.
more than Art Funkel was more than a musician. He was also an actor.
Oh, okay. I did not know that. I learned something new.
Yes, one of the most critical acclaim films that he starred in is called Catch 22.
Hmm. Okay.
Among
Wow.
other things. So he was an actor too. So it wasn't uncommon for musicians to also act. You had a lot of yeah, quite a bit of musicians that was also actors, including Elvis Presley.
Hmm.
You know, starred
Yeah.
in starred in a lot of pictures as a musician. Um, let's see who else you have. Whitney Houston,
That's true. Justin Timberlake,
yes. Justin Timberlake, of course.
Aretha Franklin, she
Yeah,
starred in the movie too. Yeah. But
Diana
all of
Ross
them. Diana Ross, yeah. Lady sings the blues. Hmm.
and Mahogany.
Yes. Hmm.
Just to name a few. So when uh singing, classical rock, uh is it is it renditions of classic rock songs, or do you actually have original song?
It's rendition of songs that have been done by other artists. And I'm looking at my list of songs, original songs that I do. I think there's probably a couple that I do that you could consider that might have come up out of the 70s. If you're if you're gonna talk about classic rock songs, yeah. But
But
mostly
but
I've
it's also I know back in the 90s and early 2000s you had artists who uh they had their music was modern for that particular time, but it also had like a 70s kind of spin to it. Like for example, Love Like This by Faith Evans, had
mm-hmm,
like a disco feel, to it.
mm-hmm.
If you've seen the video, you'll see people and almost like it's like a disco setting and everybody's roller skating. So it kind of fused the two together. Another song that probably, resonate with the 70s is a band called Silk Sonic, sings Leave the Door Open. That has a 70s feel, as well. And the way the band sing kind of reminds me, of groups like the Delphonics or the Four Tops or the Temptations.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A
Yeah.
classic example, of modern music being fused into the 70s and even in the 90s, when the soft rock subgenre rolled into the 90s, a lot of the artists, had used the 70s as inspiration for some of their songs, as well. So there's always a tribute to the classics,
Right.
somewhere there, even when artists, sample some of the songs, back in the 70s, or 80s, no matter what genre that you're in, they always tend to take a nod, at past music because, that's music that stand the test of time. As I heard, they have meaningful lyrics and the beats are, great. Of course, I don't understand any of the music that's being, played today on the radio for the younger
Mm-hmm.
generation. I just can't get with some of those songs, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and you know what? I used to hear that as a teenager back in the 70s. Our parents, the older parents, that generation, they would say that now. And I think well, I know with me, exposing myself, I made myself come out of my comfort, zone as far as music and start listening to the different genre of music. And if I don't like it, I don't like it. And that's interesting you say that because I know some parents who their kids are in these punk rock bands or these screaming metal bands or these bands. I heard there was music called humming music, and I said, really? I have no idea what that is. I'll have to go
No,
on
what
YouTube
is
and see if I can find that. And my whole thing is I want to listen to music that it grabs me. I don't want anything that is going to make me feel more intense. I've already had a hard day. Get me in the mood where, I'm just sitting here and I'm bouncing. Because, like, as I mentioned before, I listen to rap, hip hop, pop. It just depends upon how the music is flowing. And if it doesn't move me, I'm moving on. So, some of the music I get that the kids are doing today, because I have people that I know, like my generation, or even my kids, their generation. I don't understand that. What are they saying? What is that? I'm like, do you remember when you were younger? And my oldest, he used to rap and he used to write lyrics. He's very good, but he stopped since he had a family. And I remember he sitting there with his cousins and friends, and they're coming up with lyrics, and it's like, that doesn't make sense. And they would say, "Oh, you're old fashioned." I said, "Old fashioned has nothing to do with it. It's just how you all talk, and how you talk through music." So I try to come out of my box, but I get what you're saying though. So
Now let's shift gears and go into the gospel music, the gospel genre. Now musically they're divided into two subgenres. You got traditional and you got contemporary. What's the difference?
mhm. The traditional, this is my interpretation. So I want everybody to know this is my interpretation, my opinion. I feel the traditional is the type of gospel music that you heard back in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s. What you hear now, I feel, is a combination of two different types of music. You hear that traditional, but they're also trying to combine, for instance, you have rappers, you have gospel rappers, so they're trying to combine, a couple styles of music together. So I think that's more so of what's going on with today's music. So that's my opinion.
Okay, so for example, so if you're hearing a gospel song and it comes from a choir, what would you call that?
Um, would it be traditional? Maybe, but it depends upon how they're presenting it. Because I've actually been around, I've visited churches and I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to bring the younger generation in. They need some new blood in the church, and I get that. So I have heard choirs sing, like, combine, actually, perfect example. I was visiting a church like before a pandemic. Um, and it was very interesting, African American church, very good. And the choir started kind of semi rapping, which I found very interesting because they had some older generation in there, and they had, it was 50-50. And I found that very, very interesting because I'm used to the choirs doing the traditional things, the
Like the
traditional
hymns,
music.
like the hymns and stuff.
Exactly. But I'm going to tell you, there are a few choirs that I'll listen to on YouTube just to see how they're going. And they combine like their style, not saying the words, but their style sounds kind of bluesy to me, and soul and R&B.
Yeah, yeah, you you have that but that part really does not concern me, that much. What really concerns me is the word. Now I heard a lot heard quite a few gospel songs that are not what I call theologically sound,
Mhm. Mhm.
meaning that, some of the things that they are saying is not written in scripture.
Right. Right. Gotcha. Yeah.
Like for example, you may, hear a song about prosperity. And, I
Mhm.
don't really particularly care. I mean, I don't care at all about the so-called prosperity gospel. So
Mhm.
that's not going to really fly with me.
Right.
You know,
Right.
the- like they're singing about, come get your blessing. My blessings around the corner, blah, 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 blah.
Mhm. Mhm.
I
Yeah.
really don't really resonate, with those type of songs. The songs that I do resonate with, are the ones that's going to, help me live a better life in Christ.
Right. Right.
Or if I'm feeling down, that there's a word, that's encouraging and uplifting.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
I would rather listen to that.
Right. And that's a great point that you bring up. Is that, but not only through music, because I noticed lately there's a church that probably once every 2 or 3 months I'll go sing a couple songs for them. And it's a United Methodist church. And then my church is Baptist. And what I like about both pastors of those churches, they are saying exactly the same thing like my pastor, Baptist church. I told him, I said, we had like a, after service, we were talking. I was talking to some of the other parishioners, and I said, I don't mind visiting other churches, not the United Methodist Church, not them, but I used to do that. And I said, what turns me off more is I feel like I'm at a concert. You have the fog machine going. You have people playing guitars as if they were rockers forever. And I'm like, okay, so where's the message? The message is lost. Where is it? And I say that, and I talked to a few people, who are deeply religious. And I said, I know what I do with secular music. I said, but I don't spread sadness and depression through my music. I engage, even though I have stage fright like nobody's business, I have to engage in my audience. I have to deliver a positive message at the end of the day so that you can come back and see me. I have sang in bars where people say, "Are you going to do some gospel?" And I'm like, we're in a bar, and I laugh and I said, "Actually, it don't matter where you at. You can be in a trench somewhere." And I said, "I'll sing gospel. Doesn't matter." I said, "The place, the physical being of it all doesn't matter. It's the spirituality of it all." And it's
Mhm.
interesting that you bring that up because I tell people, I said, that's why the music that I sing, be it blues, gospel, rock, whatever I do, I said, yes, I sing. I said, but lately I've been singing songs about empowerment. And when I choose gospel songs, it's, perfect song. It combines gospel, blues, and folk. Don't Let Nobody Drag Your Spirit Down by Eric Bibb. That's a great song. People remember that song. I purposely leave it out the set to see what happens next. And if I take a break, people are like, "Are you gonna sing this?" It's like, yeah. It talks about life, but at the same time, it says when you're on your way to heaven, don't let nobody turn you around. Don't let nobody drag your spirit down. And like our like I love singing Wade in the Water. That is a great song. And I tell people it wasn't published until like 1900 1901. Don't know who the author original was. I said that probably came from the slavery times of plantation. It was a way of communication. I said, but if you really pay attention to the words, so those words are coming out of the Bible. Talks about the River Jordan, talks about somebody dressed in white, somebody dressed in red, talks about angels up the river. I said it talks about all of that. And I said that is important because people want to hear truth. And I have to tell you, a lot of people that I know, they're just tired of hearing the opposite side of truth.
Mhm.
They really
And
are.
there's also songs that I heard, on the radio, especially urban stations,
Hmm.
that I thought that was, that could go, both either way. Like, for example,
Hmm.
you heard of Rance Allen, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so he had this song in the early 80s called I Belong to You, right? In
Hmm.
the early 80s.
Okay.
Right,
Okay.
and it's played on R&B it had a heavy rotation on R&B stations, right? And I thought that it was, a secular song. Come to find out that
Mm.
it could have went both ways.
Oh,
It's a
okay.
gospel song, but it's also a secular song. It
Right.
could talk about the love of your life,
Hmm.
saying that
Hmm.
I belong to you, I love you always. And also
Hmm.
be talking about the love that we have for our Heavenly Father.
Right.
He's saying, "Well, you made me, I belong to you."
Hmm.
And I thought that that was really fascinating for a song like that to end up on gospel music stations as well as urban stations. Another one is The Light of Love by it's two girls, Angie and Debbie White.
Hmm.
It was I believe it was mid 90s, early 90s song that again could go both ways. It did have a heavy rotation in art in urban stations during the 90s. And I thought that too was, a secular song until I look at their what is called a discography
Hmm. Hmm.
and kind of find out that Angie and Debbie Wines are gospel artists, and they're part of this big Winans family. I guess just about everybody in their family could sing.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
And
you'd
that
be surprised a lot of songs out there, from yesterday and then even up today that they could go either way. It could go to the gospel side or it could go to the blues side. It really could. And, song that I sing is called Don't Let the Devil Ride. That and I've heard on YouTube churches singing that song as a gospel song. And then there are blues artists who, have done that song.
mhm,
And so it's just very, very, very interesting how, you take a song and it could be presented in all kind of ways. There's an original song that was written by a gentleman, Frank Wildhorn, that I released as a single a couple years ago. And it's called Something to Believe in. And so when I first heard it, it was sung by a lady named Linda Eder. And to me, it was a love song. But the gentleman that approached me to do it, Brian Cole, he said, this is a song, 2, 3 years ago. This world was, well, it's still in a state, but it was really in a state. People were lost, oppressed. A lot of things were going on that was just on the negative side. And so he said, this is a song with your voice. You could sing this. And so if you listen to the way I sing it, I tell people it pretty much can be a gospel song, it could be an alternative song, it could be a soft rock song. Because at the end of the song, he adds part of Martin Luther King's speech, I Have a Dream.
I'll
And it
tell
was
you,
so powerful.
I'll tell you what song that really got me that I don't even know
Mhm,
which genre to put it in. Whitney Houston's All the Man I Need, from I think it's from her third album. Um,
mhm,
from her third album, 19 I think it was from a 1997, I mean 87,
mhm, mhm.
album.
Yeah, and you know what? I think I would put, I don't know, I think I would probably put that as a ballad. I don't know,
That's
that's just
kind of
me.
hard for me because I could see it, I could see it in two ways. I could see that I could on one side of the coin, I could see her, saying that she found this amazing guy.
Mhm.
She's like the perfect love of her life. You
Mhm.
see it that way. And then on the other
Right.
side of that coin, I can see her, talking about, the love of God, how it's uh it's unconditional love, that he's showing towards her. So I could see it, both ways.
Mhm. Mhm.
But you hardly ever hear that on a gospel station. You always hear it on R&B station. But
Right.
when she
Right.
died, and when she died and they paid tribute, to her, all of a
Mhm.
sudden, you know, that was one of the songs that they had played, in tribute, to her. So I was kind of confused,
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
as to, what genre, can you really put that, song in? Kind of like the Rance Allen song, I Belong to You is in the
Right.
same, category. It can go both ways.
Mhm.
One of the things
Mhm.
I'm concerned about, in terms of gospel music is that for some artists, they, are bringing the world's attributes, into gospel.
Mm.
So that's one of
Yeah.
the that I'm, really concerned about.
Mhm.
I think you said
Mhm.
it earlier that, is getting away from the actual message.
Correct. Yes. And I don't, and I think that's so important because when I'm a guest singer at the United Methodist Church, I don't ask what the message is. It's just interesting that every single time that I have been going up to that church, it's probably been about 3 years now to, sing for their service. And when, it was locked down for COVID, I would go to record. And every single time I hear the pastor's message, and when the service is over, I said, Pastor, you know what? I said, this has definitely got to be God talking. I said, ain't nothing but God's business. And he laughs. He knows I'm talking. I said, what I'm singing had something to do with your message. I said, what is that about? And he just laughs. And he says, it's like you said, it's God's business. And I said, yeah. I said, it's just amazing, what I'm singing, and I listened to your message and I said, wow. And then I'll go to my church in the afternoon because we have two services and hear my pastor. I'm like, geez, they kind of have the same message going on. I said, what is this? And I just chuckle and laugh. I said, okay, God, you got like some kind of a main line going on, you know, that you all get together and everybody delivers the message, but this is the message that you want, but they all deliver the message. So I just think that is so, so important. You want everything to tie in so that when people leave the church, they have this sense of number one, belonging. And number two, they've gained some knowledge. And number three, you're hoping that it moves them, a closer walk with thee, closer walk to God. So, um, and I just firmly believe that. I don't mind going to a gospel concert, and if you want to have fog machine and your guitar player is playing the best guitar we've all ever heard, that's great. But I don't know. I would like an uplifting service, but I don't need all the hoopla at the same time because I
Uh,
can
so,
go to
your career spans almost your career almost spans 30 years.
just about, yeah.
And how many albums do you have?
I have two albums out and I have two singles out.
Two albums. Have you ever been on tour?
Not a full tour. If I've done like a mini tour, which encompassed Ohio, parts of Pennsylvania, West Virginia. I've gone to Memphis a few times, so that's where it was limited. Pretty much over here on the Eastern Seaboard.
Well,
Uh,
Memphis is like the blues capital of the world. Oh, and there's another place that I definitely recommend that you go and visit someday before you die. Muscle Shoals, Alabama.
so I've been to Alabama. My parents are from Alabama. Never had been there. I got to go there in 2018 Montgomery and sing at the Capitol Oyster Bar. And I loved it. It was by the river, and they told me there's gators. I said, I like gator meat. I said, that don't bother me. I said, I have sense enough not to be playing with something that could eat me. But
Right.
I was told, and matter of fact, I have a couple friends who have been there, and they said, you got to go there. They said they'll love you. You got to go record there. And I said, I know, guys. And there's no excuse, to be perfectly honest, for me not to do that. But there's another place that I want to go to that's probably about an hour from Memphis. It's Clarksdale, Mississippi. I've always wanted to go down there.
Do you have samples? Do you have samples of your songs?
I do. I have them. They are on YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify.
Um,
All of them.
because with your permission, I kind of when I actually edit this broadcast, I kind of want to, add some samples of some of your songs to this podcast so that, people can get a feel of the music that you sing.
Sure. You can take your pick. You can find, just type my name into uh, Miss Freddie, MISSFREDDYE, and you'll find me on Spotify, you'll find me on iTunes, you'll find me on YouTube, whichever one. And you'll find the music that I do. Both of my albums are on Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube, and also my single. Um, I think, and I love what I did. But you'll find a difference from the first album, which I did in 2010, and the second album, which was released in 2017. It's the same voice, but it's very different. And even with the two singles, and I love both of the singles, but I love "Wade in the Water" because I did that as a single. I just absolutely love "Wade in the Water." I've sung it as a jazz version, as a rock version, as a blues version, as a gospel version. And people are like, really? How'd you do that? I said, it can be done. You
Oh
just
yeah,
have to
absolutely.
focus. You know, you
Um,
I've heard people turn there's a perfect example. I didn't like it, but I knew that was that generation. But I heard this national act band. They're very good, young people. They took, I don't know if it was Bill Withers or James Brown's song. And the only way I knew what it was, because I was listening to the words, and I'm like, well, that's different.
are you talking about Lean on Me?
I don't think it was Lean on Me that they did. You know what? I don't think it was because I want to say it was either James Brown or Bill, but the way they did it, it was very different. And I
Now, Bill
said,
Withers
okay.
had a song, "Lean on Me," in the mid '70s. It
Mhm.
was 1973, and then in
Right.
1987, you had a young group. They called themselves Club Navoy.
Oh,
They
okay.
did a remix of that song in 1987, and
Hmm.
they put a hip hop soul, kind
Hmm.
of to it, and I like that.
Right.
Another example would be the Springs.
Oh. Hmm.
The Springs, they had a classic doo-wop song. What was the name of that song? Oh, "Keep Me Hanging On," right? And
Oh
it was
yeah.
and it
Hmm.
was remade by a rock musician by the name of Kim Wilder. It had like a rock kind of feel to it, and
Hmm.
it was
Hmm.
pretty good.
Hmm.
It was pretty good, but
Okay.
I think that also, Whitney Houston's "I Will Always Love You" is
Hmm.
not an original song.
Right.
Uh, the original song was done by country artist Dolly Parton in
Hmm.
1974. So she
Okay.
actually had a country version in 1974, and 18 years later, Whitney Houston put a soulful spin on it, and they said that her song was better than the original, which I agree.
Hmm. Right.
Which I
Right.
agree. Houston's version was way better than the original version.
Hmm. Hmm.
So also you had like Gloria Gaynor's version of "I Will Survive," which was a disco version, in
Hmm.
the late '70s, and then in the late '90s, you had a young lady by the name of Sante Savage who turned it into, an R&B ballad, and
Okay.
it was a lot smoother. It was a lot smoother than the original version, and you can actually
Hmm.
hear the lyrics.
Right. Right.
You can actually hear the lyrics. You can actually hear the lyrics, better. And Miss Savage, who sung the song, was very emotional, in that song. And you can you can feel the pain and the triumph, in
Hmm.
singing. And that really brought the song, out versus the disco version to where, people are not really listening to the lyrics, they're just dancing to the beat.
It was dancing. Right. Right. Hmm.
Which
Yeah.
was popular at that time, that
Right.
people, more so listen to the music, instead of the lyrics, unless you have, unless you have like unless you have a down tempo, song like Peaches and Hers Reunited. Now that's a different
Hmm.
story. It's a disco song, but it's, like, it's like really down tempo.
Hmm.
And you can probably slow dance to that at your high school prom or something.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah. That.
they're like different styles, and all of this, and I was like really young back then, but that's the
Hmm.
type of songs that my parents would play over and over again. It kind of like stuck with me, so when
Hmm.
I listen to
Hmm.
songs like today, 2010s and 2020s, I'm like, I'm not really, feeling it because it's not something that I'm used to. I'm
Right.
used to the songs that my parents used to play, when I was little. And then in, my generation, in the '80s and '90s was really the last, I call that the silver age of music.
Okay.
What it was the last, to me, it was the last period in which, the music was played, actually has some type of meaning or some type of, message. Nowadays is, it's about stuff that I don't particularly, care about.
Right. Right. And people go back and forth, and I know the music, like you said, there are artists from year 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and artists today have taken that and they've redone it. But what I really like as far as going back to blues music, what I've noticed, there were a lot of artists like within the last 10 years, 15 years. They did the soft rock, the hard rock, but then they started making blues albums. And I couldn't believe it. I said, wow, that's really amazing. Cyndi Lauper, you know, it's actually a pretty good blues album. I couldn't believe it. I said, really? And then it's somebody else recently, like maybe within the last 5 years, released a blues album. So I don't know if they're trying to get people because of who they are from the 70s, 80s, 90s to reintroduce. They feel blues is losing its momentum, trying to bring it back somehow. It's like, okay, I'm going to release this blues album, then we'll see what happens next. So
And
um,
speaking of Loeffler, her song "Time After Time," in the
mhm,
end was a fusion between blues and soft rock.
mhm, mhm,
I could hear some elements of blues, you know, in that musically. Um,
mhm,
so I don't think that was nothing new for her. And then that song I was telling you about before, "Ain't No Love in the Heart of the City."
right.
But there's also a there's also a soft rock version of that too, with some blues infused in it as well. And I thought that was pretty good too.
Mhm.
You
You're
know,
probably
you
talking about White Snake's version. I think that's the name of the band.
yeah,
I think.
I think that's them.
Yeah,
That's them.
yeah.
I thought they did a pretty good job with
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
Uh okay, we getting ready to close here.
Okay.
You certainly definitely musical inclined. You had a wonderful career and really excited for you. So are you planning on releasing any new music? Are you planning to go on tour? So what are your plans musically?
Musically, I am currently working on a blues roots album, and I hope to finish it up in the next few months. And I'm getting ready to release another single, original, and it's a love ballad. I love it. And I was proposed a European tour in November. So I'm just waiting for my itinerary. I'm very excited about that
Oh, you're
because
going
before
on a
the
European tour. That's
I
fantastic.
am. I am. Well, I actually had one planned before, well, before the pandemic hit. It was planned for 2020, and then COVID hit, and it was three shows or three times I was supposed to go, and they all had to be canceled. And I said, well, if there's a will, there's a way. And yeah, yeah, I was approached by a tour company out of France, and I'm excited. I'm very excited. I know they listen to my music over in Europe, so I just want to go over there and just share what I do with them. So it's pretty exciting. That was on my bucket list to go over Europe and sing. If I don't do anything else, it's like let me just go over to Europe and just sing.
That is fantastic. I wish you the best.
Thank
And I
you.
know you're gonna have a great time, over there doing what you do. I'm so excited for you. And
Thank
I'm
you.
really
Thank
serious
you.
about, you sending me some samples of your music so the audience can kind of get a feel of what you do, kind of get a feel of your musical style.
Absolutely. How many songs do you want me to send you? Like a couple, three?
Yes, about one for each genre.
Okay, I can do that. That is very easy. I can do that.
One for each genre. And I will what I'll do is that when I edit it, I will create an announcement, saying that, we're gonna sample, your songs. I just want to make sure that OBS obtains your permission to have these songs played.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'll definitely send you my anthem. You know how countries have their own national anthems. Well, I have my own anthem. It's an original song and it's who I am. So I'm dubbed Lady of the Blues. So I will definitely make sure you get that.
So that would be the fourth song, and then you can send me three others, one for
Okay.
each genre: blues, classic rock,
Hmm.
gospel. We kind of want to I kind of want the audience to get a feel of your music styles from both bands.
Absolutely.
Oh, by the way, what
I,
does BMW mean?
that was my first band I was in years ago. Blues Music Works,
Yeah,
BMW.
I'm glad I mentioned I'm glad I mentioned that, but because if I didn't, people would be like, is your band named after a car, a BMW or
You
something?
know, right,
I don't know.
yeah,
I
yeah.
just had to throw that in.
Yeah, no, that was my first band I joined in 96. And I actually, I love body art. So I got the tattoo with the musical notes and the letters BMW. And because people ask me about that, they're like, "Oh, are you into BMW cars?" I said, "No, that was the name of my first band, Blues Music Works." So, I said since then I have my own two bands pretty much named with my name intertwined in it. So but yeah, BMW is it was a cool band. I miss those guys. Big Al he passed away in 2006. And but I learned a lot from him. I have to be honest. This little old man, about 4'11", 5 feet. And I tell you, man, he could play keyboard like nobody's business. And he was into blues. Blues was like, he listened to classical, but blues was like his thing. And I could appreciate that growing up in a household. My mom listened to blues, and my dad listened to country. So I will definitely send you, something because Lady of the Blues is like kind of reminds you of a rock, kind of a blues rock feel. And Wade in the Water is the gospel side of me. And I don't know. What else? Something, I don't know. What would the third one be for you?
So you got gospel. Did you mention some classic rock?
Yeah, Lady of the Blues is Lady of the Blues is kind of hmm, it's kind of like that. It has that classic rock feel to it, like a classic blues rock feel.
Yeah, because when I think of blues like back in the 20s and 30s, it's
Hmm.
kind of different than what it was now. So when I was in college, I started in this play called Bubbling Brown Sugar.
Hmm.
And I played the part of the notorious numbers racket by the name of Bumpy Jackson. That was
Oh, okay.
yeah, that was my role. So it was highly unconventional for me to have that,
Hmm.
type of role, but I auditioned for it actually.
Okay.
And I actually that was a role that I actually auditioned for, and I was encouraged by, my friends to, audition. Um, and in my audition, the director was like, "You'd be really good for the part of Bumpy Jackson." based on my audition performance. I'm like, well, okay.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So that was kind of unconventional. And the
Mhm.
songs that, and the blues songs, that they played, that was sung because it was a music. I mean, it was a musical. So,
Mhm.
and I
Mhm.
really don't. And be honest with you, I don't like music.
Okay.
I don't like musicals. That also includes theatrical movie productions like The Sound of Music. I don't like them. Annie. All of them. I don't like them. I think the only one that I like was as a musical wise was The Wiz.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. See, I like musicals. I don't like to watch them on TV or in a movie theater. I want to see them up close and personal. Like I want to see them in person.
Right. And the reason why I like The Wiz so much as a musical because when I think of a musical, I'm they're playing, they're singing music that I really don't care to hear, about. But
Mhm.
in The Wiz, uh the music that they sung on there, like Diana Ross and Diana Ross, you got Michael Jackson, you got Nipsey, Russell.
Mhm. Yes, I remember him.
It was like something different that I never heard of, in a
Mhm.
musical. Like some of it was R&B, some of it was like disco, rap or something that you would never hear,
Right.
in a musical. And I thought that that was like they really did a nice job in
Mhm.
putting they did a great spin on The Wizard of Oz. And so that was the only musical movie that I would, ever would like to watch,
Mhm. Mhm.
right there. Other than that, I don't care, I really don't care for musicals, at all because I don't like the genre of music that's, being seen in a lot of these, musicals, even the ones, today like Mamma Mia, no way.
Mhm. Mhm.
No
Okay.
way.
Okay.
But the only version of that song that I will listen to is
Mhm.
by the name of ABBA. I'll listen
Oh,
to that.
okay.
I'll listen
I've
to
heard
that.
of Abba. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But other than that,
Wow.
I don't particularly care for musicals.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna get ready to wrap up here. Uh,
Okay.
Tell everybody how they'll be able to reach you.
Well, you can find me, reach out to me on social media. I have a website, missfreddye.com, MissFreddye.com. Find me on Facebook. Go to my musician page, like my page, Miss Freddie. You can find me on Instagram, Freddie Stover's Blues. You can find me on Twitter at Miss Freddie17.
What if somebody wants to if they hear your music and it was like, oh, I want to see if I can book her for a gig or something. You think that would be an option for you?
Oh, I've had that happen, and it still happens. People will reach out. You can reach out to me through my website. There's a place where you can email me, message me, and I've had that happen. I've been invited to a couple blues festivals over the years, so I'm excited. I'm well. I'm gigging anyway every weekend, almost every weekend. I try not to do winter time because I can't, especially watching these flights that happen canceling all over the place. I said, I just can't do that.
All
But
right, I
yeah,
know who wants to be doing an
I don't want to be
outside
stuck.
concert, and who wants to be doing an outside concert and you got icicles under your nose.
Oh my, I'm telling you. I'm
But I mean,
telling
people do it at football games. You ever heard the Ice Bowl? 1964?
yeah. Yeah,
It
I've
was
heard the ice
like,
ball.
yeah, it was like minus something degrees and
Mm,
by the thousands. I couldn't do
right,
it.
right.
Uh,
I've performed outside in the cold. Now I'm telling you, I'm like, okay, note to self, you have got to have like a heater both sides of me. Then the band, of course, because it was wow, it was something. So, I love doing outdoor gigs, but after October, I'm kind of like, I don't know about that. A little bit
unless
too
you're in
chilly.
Florida or something. Unless you're in Florida,
Yes.
so they don't start really getting cold in, Florida till
Hmm.
like November or December.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah.
So
Or
it
maybe
it
in
gets hard to do.
Texas.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Now, it is
Yep.
a tradition here at the Australian broadcast section to wherever we have a guest on one of our podcasts that our guest will provide the last word. So this is the time that I will button up my lip and let you say the last word.
Well, my last word to this is I'm very grateful for what you do. And I'm very grateful for everyone who has reached out, who has become a fan, a friend to what I do. And I think it's very important that we stay connected. And if we've lost connection with each other, we reconnect somehow in a positive, focused way. And it's important because you only get one chance on this earth. And my motto is as if one of the songs that I sing, don't let nothing or nobody drag your spirit down. So, reconnect, find that common ground. Don't lose sight of who you are, but if you're like me, I love to socialize. I love being around people. I love talking to people. I love saying hi. And I think that whole human emotion is very, very important. I'm not trying to be preachy. I'm just trying to tell you like it is. And, all I want to say is just remember blues is more than just a phase.
All righty, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Freddie Stover. Thank you so
Thank
much
you,
for
Matt.
being part of the show. Uh,
Oh, you're very welcome. And I really do appreciate it. And I'm not just saying it, to be polite. I really do from the, deepest part of my heart. I do, because it's a wonderful opportunity to be able to do this.
and immediately following this announcement and bumper, we will be presenting to you some samples of Miss Stover's work as a musician. So you will hear a couple of songs before the podcast ends. So the audience can kind of get a feel of her music, her musical style, her philosophy behind the words, and you will see why she loves to do what she do. So we like to thank you for this portion of the podcast in this great interview conversation with Freddie. And so in a moment, we will present to you some of her famous musical tracks. So we hope that you would stay with us. So until the end, this is Keith Williams, your host for the Author Showcase. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.